we're kind of starting to see more commentary and concern around AI's impact on jobs. So, first up this past week, Elon Musk said AI is going to take all of our jobs. Quote, probably none of us will have a job, he said at VivaTech 2024 in Paris, where he was describing a future where jobs would be optional thanks to AI. However, he did say for this future to come to pass, there would need to be, quote, universal high income, which he did not elaborate too much on. Second, the CEO of Klarna, a fintech company, is facing some backlash after posting about how AI is helping his company by essentially replacing the need for humans. Sebastian Siemiatkowski posted on X all the ways that AI was helping his company save an estimated $10 million in 2024, including saying, quote, we're spending less on photographers, image banks, and marketing agencies, he wrote. Our in-house marketing team is half the size it was last year, but is producing more. He also said the company cut external marketing agency expenses by 25%. He later removed this post after overwhelmingly negative responses online. Now, third in kind of these threads coming together around job fears, McKinsey also weighed in on AI's impact on jobs with some new research, saying, quote, our updated modeling of the future of work finds that demand for workers in STEM-related healthcare and other high-skill professions would rise, while demand for occupations such as office workers, production workers, and customer service representatives would decline. By 2030, in a midpoint AI adoption scenario, up to 30% of current hours worked could be automated or accelerated by generative AI. Now, last and certainly not least, we also saw a fantastic article come out from Avital Balwit, who is the chief of staff to Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, and it's called My Last 5 Years of Work. And in it, she makes some really bold predictions about where this is all going, saying, quote, I am 25. These next 3 years might be the last few years that I work. I am not ill, nor am I becoming a stay-at-home mom, nor have I been so financially fortunate to be on the brink of voluntary retirement. I stand at the edge of a technological development that seems likely, should it arrive, to end employment as I know it. She then goes on to detail how working at Anthropic has convinced her that increasingly powerful AI models are going to lead to widespread automation of, quote, every economically useful task, and that she expects AI to first excel at any kind of online work. In closing, she considers kind of the mental and emotional effects this is going to have on workers in a post-AGI world where their work is no longer needed. So, Paul, it kind of seems like we're certainly hearing more commentary around this subject from a lot of different sources. Like, are we starting to kind of see real reasons to worry here?
I hope we're starting to see a sense of urgency to have the conversations. Like that's kind of my big thing. So I feel like the Klarna CEO is saying the quiet part out loud. I
Mm,
have sat in executive meetings and board meetings over the last 12 to 18 months, and these are the exact conversations that are happening. How do we cut agency costs? Do we need as many outside agencies? Do we need to spend as much with our outside agencies? Um, are we able to bring in-house now with our team, do what the agencies were doing so we don't have to reduce staff? Maybe we just cut the outside agency budget, we keep the people, and the internal people can now do the work of the agencies. I've gotten lots of questions and discussions around how do we grow without hiring? So
mm,
maybe it's not reduction of workforce, it's we can now achieve our growth goals without having to bring more people on board. There are absolutely the discussions, though, of do we need as many humans doing the work? So if we're not in a massive growth mode and we don't have plans to introduce new products and services, or there's a demand for more of what we do we need as many people doing the work? Do we need as many SEO people, as many writers, as many accountants? Like these are the discussions that are happening, whether you think they are or not, or you haven't been privy to those conversations. I can tell you right now they're happening. Now, is that the right path? I don't know. Like what we're going to do as like what I believe is every company gets a choice about how you take advantage of what AI is going to enable: efficiency, productivity, creativity, innovation, better decision making. Like all of those benefits can be to the benefit of your people, or it can be to maximize profits and productivity, often in lieu of the people. So what we will do as a company is we will continue to grow, needing to hire fewer people to achieve those growth goals. So as a team of 7 at the institute, we are probably more productive than what my agency was at its peak, which I think was around 19 people. I would argue that with a staff of 7, we outproduce the team of 19. Now, that's nothing against the team of 19. I sold that agency in 2021. If we had today's technology with that team of people, we probably
Mm,
could have 2x revenue without having to make a hire.
mm,
So I think most responsible organizations will take a human-centered approach to this and say, yeah, the AI is driving efficiency and productivity, and we're going to keep the people we have. They're going to become more efficient, more creative, more productive. We're going to keep growing. We just don't need to hire as many people moving forward as we would have. So I think that's kind of a best case scenario in many cases. But, this article, that you mentioned, from Avatar, I saw this when today's Monday. This was Sunday morning or Saturday morning, I think I saw this. Yeah, it was Saturday morning. So I read this and it definitely like it was one of those articles you start like, God, this is a really smart article. And
mm.
I did find myself wondering if she used Claude Opus to help in writing it. Um, but just based on her resume and history, like I did a lot of research, one to make sure it was a real person. Like, because I first saw this, I was like, okay, is this actually the chief of staff to Dario Amodei? Like, this is interesting. And so I went and kind of researched who she was and saw she was a Rhodes Scholar, and it looks like she came up in actually communications at Anthropic and then eventually
Mm,
moved into the chief of staff position. But she hasn't updated her LinkedIn with that information. So I had to go digging to make sure, she was who it appeared she was. So anyway, when I read the article, I was like, gosh, I don't, we got to talk about this on a future episode. And then I went ahead and put it on LinkedIn, and the response was so overwhelming right away that I messaged Mike and I was like, hey, we got to make this a main topic like today, because I think it strikes a nerve with people, and it's a really important discussion. So I'll just read what I put on LinkedIn, and then we can see if we have any other, follow on conversations from here. So what I wrote was I spend a reasonable amount of my time these days considering the future of work and talking with business and education leaders who are beginning to ponder the topic with a greater sense of urgency. I'll start by repeating what seems to be my most common refrain: no one really knows what happens next. That is the only thing about the next 2 years and beyond that I can say with a high degree of confidence. The rest of what I think and what leading AI researchers, entrepreneurs, and economists believe are varying degrees of educated guesses and theories. Some are likely more directionally correct than others, but that's the point. We need to start having more serious discussions about potential paths AI could take business, education, the economy, and society as its capabilities and impact grow with each new model that is released, GPT-5, 6, 7, etc. Assuming everything will stay status quo or that AI will only affect gradual change, like other general purpose technologies before it, will likely lead to suboptimal outcomes for the leaders who choose that path. We need to consider different perspectives and ideas, especially from people who are on the inside of the frontier AI model companies, such as Anthropic, Cohere, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Mistral, OpenAI. For example, this piece in Palladium magazine from Avital Balwit, a Rhodes Scholar and Chief of Staff to Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, is one of the best articles on AI I've read. And then I went on to quote a couple of excerpts. I work at a frontier AI company. With every iteration of our model, I am confronted with something more capable and general than before. The general reaction to language models among knowledge workers is one of denial. They grasp at the ever diminishing number of places where such models still struggle, rather than noticing the ever growing range of tasks where they have reached or passed human level. Many will point out that AI systems are not yet writing award winning books, let alone patenting inventions. But most of us also don't do these things. I thought this next paragraph was really important. The economically and politically relevant comparison on most tasks is not whether the language model is better than the best human. It is whether they are better than the human who would otherwise do that task. But these systems will continue to improve at all cognitive tasks. The shared goal of the field of artificial intelligence is to create a system that can do anything. That's sort of like a very broad blanket statement about the pursuit of AGI, but we can touch on that another time. I expect us to soon reach it. If I'm right, how should we think about the coming obsolescence of work? Should we meet the possibility with its loss with sadness, fear, joy, or hope? The overall economic effects of AGI are difficult to forecast, and here I will focus on the question of how people will feel about the work. So, my main takeaway here was anyone who, and I've said this before on the show, but like to Elon Musk about like, oh yeah, we're all just gonna be out of jobs. Um, Anyone who makes a definitive statement about this stuff, like very confidently with conviction, stating 2 years from now, this is what it looks like. Um, they're either intentionally exaggerating to make a point, which is what I would consider probably Elon at this
Mm,
point, given his history of sort of exaggerating outcomes in a shorter time period than normal. Um, Overconfident in their own point of view about the future, or intentionally misrepresenting reality for some reason, potentially financial gain. So this is again the thing I think we need to recap, and we're going to touch on this in one of the topics in rapid fire about Musk, Jan LeCun, and Jeff Hinton. The people that are leading the research, building these companies, they can't agree on any of this stuff, and like the leading economists can't agree on this stuff. Like you have to develop your own point of view. You have to develop some conviction about what you think is likely happening. And maybe you have A, B, and C options there. You have a couple of contingency paths. And you have to start thinking about that. So if you're a leader, if you're the CEO of a company, or you're building your own business, or you're even leading a department, you have to start to form an opinion about what you think is going to happen next so you can start preparing it that way, like doing impact assessments on your teams and things like that. Um, we can't just deny that it's happening. And I thought that that was one of the real key aspects that caught me was that this quote from her article about the general reaction to language models among knowledge workers is one of denial. I
mm,
think that is very, very true. I think
mm.
most people just choose to deny that this is happening, that it's going to be disruptive in the very near future, and they just go about their lives each day. And I just don't think that that is the best path forward. I don't agree with Elon that it's just going to, like, in 2 years, like, it's just going to do all of our work for us or anything like that. But I also think that it would be naive to say it's not going to have a disruptive impact. And I think what the Klarna CEO is saying is probably what a lot of CEOs are thinking right now. And they're watching that and wondering if that is in fact true and what it's going to mean to them.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap this up, I'm curious, like, was the sentiment of the comments you got? What kinds of things were people saying in reaction to this?
Yeah, there was, I mean, so at the time of us recording this, there was over 55 comments to this post and it had 15,000 impressions, which again, I posted on a Saturday morning. So that's a lot, like for an average post for me. And it definitely got people thinking. And I think a lot of people appreciated the perspective. I
Mm,
think a lot of people shared the idea that it's important we're talking about this stuff, that there maybe isn't enough conversation around this. And it was a pretty diverse group of people, like different backgrounds, practitioners, leaders, government, people involved in government, people involved in education. So I think that this post, her article, not necessarily my LinkedIn post, but her article and her positioning really resonated with people. And I think it definitely triggered the kind of conversation that I was hoping it would,
mm.
that maybe we can start having these important conversations and working through scenarios of what possible outcomes